Hello, my name is Dejan Ristic. I'm the solar guy with Horizon Energy. I'm glad you've expressed some interest to get more information about saving money and increasing your net worth by going solar. And I'd just like to take a few minutes to take you through what this involves, like how it works, how you can take your electricity bill, the amount of money you're paying for the power bill, and simply redirect that amount, or usually less per month, and own your own solar system, where the Canada Greener Homes interest-free loan gives you the full cost of the system. So you're taking money you're already spending and actually putting it towards something rather than having it be flushed down the toilet, so to speak. So the key four things are what I call the four elements of the solar strategy that have nothing to do with solar panels that make going solar a dramatically superior strategy. So I'm going to talk about net metering. I'm going to talk about the Solar Club, which is a specialized electricity retailer which pays you more for your exports, and also the Canada Greener Homes Grant and the Canada Greener Homes interest-free loan. Before I get into that, most of my clients who go solar, what characterizes them is they have a relatively stable life. Even their busyness level in life is somewhat manageable, where they have the available time and headspace, so to speak, to try this on for size, to consider it, and then use this as a strategy to further fortify their financial future. So you might be able to recognize yourself if you fall into this category if you consider yourself relatively financially stable, or at least somewhat financially stable, and you're the kind of person who wants to build an even more secure financial future. And so this is a strategy that has the potential to help you. So I'm going to go through the different questions that almost everybody has. So how do they perform in snow? So what happens in snow, in fact, I should have this part drawn in here. So let me just draw it in as I speak. So essentially, let's call it winter, spring, summer, and then winter again, sort of over 12 months. So we have your consumption, which I'm going to designate in black lines, and I'm just going to make them all the same, even though December, November, December, especially December, January, it's a lot higher use for most people, like probably 30% higher, just because we spend more time indoors and the furnace motor is running. I'm just going to make all these the same. I'll probably make the summer months a little bit higher for air conditioning. And don't mind me, it's not going to have 12 months. So just pretend like it has 12 months. I'm going to show you the concept as to what happens related to snow and the effects of snow on solar production and the financial performance of solar. Because remember, most people, this is a very new thing, that there is no batteries needed. So when you have excess power you produce to the grid, and when you need additional power that solar doesn't produce, or at night when solar produces nothing, you're getting all your power from the grid. So every night, including summer or winter, you are getting all of your power from the grid. This is something that's a little bit difficult to fathom sometimes, and I'm gonna go into that. Like these two schematics, they talk about how I used to get power before and then how I would get power with solar. So I'll go through that and explain it. So maybe I will have 12 months. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's make it 12 months. 9, 10, and so what's going to happen is you're going to see this curve with solar production, and so winter we have a little bit higher consumption. So the black represents a family's historical consumption, And then I'm gonna make the next set of bars, I'm gonna make them not black but white. So your solar produces little in the winter, a little bit more next month, February. By March, most people get to be exporters of power, so a little bit higher than your historical consumption. Then you have more in April. Then you have more in May, quite a bit more in June. So there's a peak in the summer, you see? There's a peak. July is probably the highest of the peaks. Depending on the air conditioner use, it's for a lot of people it's the peak export month as well, between June, July, and August. Then we start to go to lower production as the days start to get shorter. And so let's see here, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. March, April, May, June, July, August. September is usually your last month where you're exporting. By October, you get to become a net importer. So you're getting more of your power from the grid. And then less in November and the least in December. So this correlates to what happens with snow. So there's 3 reasons why in the winter solar is going to produce less and you're going to get more power from the grid. First reason is that there's shorter days. Then we have the lower angle of incidence, so the sun hits the solar modules less directly in the winter. And then it's the snow coverage itself. So when there is snowfall, within several days of the heavy snowfall, the solar modules will produce nothing or next to nothing, and most of the power, if not all of the power, even during the day, is going to be coming from the grid. So you can note that the winter production is forecast to be low. And that's actually, if you get your unique estimate, we do up a unique estimate for your household. That's going to tell you exactly what your profile will look like based on the shape of your roof, based on any shading around the roof, and your kilowatt hours use. So in regards to, so hopefully that sort of resolves things like how do they perform in snow. There is a video that I send out as well, so you can take a look at that video as well, from northern Minnesota, which is a similar situation to us here in Alberta. Hail, how do they perform in hail? There's a video for that as well. They're virtually indestructible. So they're rated for 160 kilometers an hour hail at direct impact, and they get tested as high as 262 miles an hour of 2-inch golf ball diameter sized hail. No crack, no dent, nothing. They're virtually indestructible. They even go as far as driving a Toyota Tundra on these 4 hollow troughs with solar panels on them, and the solar modules are holding up the weight of the Toyota Tundra. So one panel holds up at least a ton of weight in that case. The only way to damage solar panel is with a sledgehammer, or if you had like watermelon sized hail or baseball sized hail. So check on the hail. What happens if you move? So the way that the Canada Greener Homes Grant works is you have 10 years to pay it off. So the money that you would be paying to EPCOR or ENMAX or Direct Energy or ATCOR or the likes, now you're just redirecting that money out of their pockets and putting it back into your own pocket for the same amount or less, roughly. You get to own your own solar system. You get to have much higher value if you were ever to resell the house. So if you're moving and selling the house, then you're going to be able to sell the house at least that much more valued by the cost of the solar system. So let's say your solar system cost you $20,000. By the way, your net cost is going to be $5,000 less with the Canada Greener Homes Grant. So if it costs you $20,000, you're going to append at least $20,000 to the cost of the home, and you're going to be able to now take that additional equity out, extract it, and then pay off however much was remaining on the 10 years of the interest-free loan, and now you're free and clear, and you have extra money in your pocket that you never would have had by continuing to pay for the power bill. So when you think about it, are they ever going to refund you some of the money that you spent? The answer is bupkis. They will refund you bupkis. Roof integrity. So the way that your roof integrity works is it's guaranteed not to leak. We give you a 5-year installation warranty on the integrity of the roof, and I'm about to show you how the mount for the roof works. It's called a Roof Tech Mini, so that's the name of the company. So RT for Roof Tech and Mini is the type of mount. So usually we'll come and show you whenever you're ready to get your unique estimate. I'll be coming with this in my backpack, show this to you. So the way that it works, there is what we call a triple seal. So the key part is that the material that fills the holes, the bolt holes, there's extra material in there. So when the bolt goes into the trusses, so see there's a layer of what's called butyl material. It's called tar tape. Think of it like a 1/8 inch thick tar tape. It's very sticky, very hydrophobic, and that there's additional material of that in the bolt holes. So when the bolt goes into the trusses, it's going to suck some of that material in with the bolt, and it seals the hole immediately. So that's one seal. This is another seal as well. So it's bolted right in, so there's a nice tight seal. The material lasts as long as the solar panels do, and the material is got engineering compliance letters. Oh, it's so strong that, yeah, definitely it took out the Ziploc bag. So as I was pulling it out, it sticks on there so tight and so nicely that the Ziploc bag will need to be replenished. So the third seal is actually another level of tar caulking that goes all the way around. Now, if you ever were to need to, oh, by the way, did I say that there's engineering compliance letters that the City of Edmonton has accepted? So this is all engineered to protect the integrity of your roof, and it's guaranteed. Okay, so what happens if you need to change a shingle? So those same mounts, oh yeah, so the way that the mount works is, so the mount is bolted into the roof. By the way, this only applies for roofs that are asphalt shingles, and if we're going with, say, a torch-on roof that's a flat roof, we use what's called a ballast system, which is weights that make sure that the solar panels stay on the roof, and we don't want to penetrate certain types of roofs. The torch-on particularly, it's like a, it's a limitless type of a warranty, or it's meant to last a lifetime, like, so it could be like 50 to 100 years type of thing. So that's the type of roof we wouldn't want to penetrate. But asphalt shingles that are meant to last 25 to 30 to some of them 50 years even, we penetrate those, and there's no problem with that. They're actually meant for, even the shingles themselves, they have nails going through them, right? So what happens on top of the actual oh my, is it the molding? This mount, yeah, the mount. So on top of the mount there's an L bracket. So imagine an L bracket sitting on top of that. It's bolted in. Now on the L bracket itself, you have a railing. You can fast forward this part if you don't want to hear all of it. So there's a railing, and so you don't get a single mount per, or like you don't get 4 mounts per solar module. You get more like 1 to 2 mounts per solar module, because there's so many modules that can be attached on the railing that goes on top of the mounts. So now the solar modules pop into the railing, they get bolted in, they're torqued into the right level of torque. So it's all engineered and scientifically documented that the torque is proper, similar to going to get your tires and your wheels changed, so that 100 kilometers after you can go back and you can get your lug nuts retorqued, just to make sure that the level of tension is just right, so it's going to last. Okay, so if you change shingles, then we would take those off, take the solar panels, solar modules off, unbolt the system. You would get the roofing company to change the shingles, and then we would come back, we would store them for you, and then put them back on. The whole process, we would only charge you for the labor, so that would be $150 per module. So let's say it's a system of 15 panels. That will be approximately $2,250 plus GST at current prices. So the roof integrity, we already went through that, so I actually have that twice. So it's very important, and we definitely make sure that it's done properly. It's a critical portion. Quality of the solar specialist. Just in brief, my background is 14 years of oil and gas engineering in new technologies, technical and economic evaluation. I was at that time, and I still feel that I'm bound by the Alberta Professional Engineers and Geoscientists Association Code of Ethics. So anything that I say is truth and nothing but the truth. And so I'm doing this work because it adds tremendous value to the homeowner, and it helps you build a more secure financial future. I'm also used to be a licensed Alberta Transportation driving instructor. So basically, I have a knack. I also have lots of teaching experience. I have a knack for relaying knowledge, education, and also, I'm inspired in building an even better future. So the quality of the company, what you can know about the company is that we have superior customer service, we have superior systems to make sure that everything is done properly, and also we have superior quality and value of equipment. So everything that we offer to you is going to be the best. So that includes the solar modules and includes the inverter itself, that we only provide the very best quality equipment so that it's going to last you the longest and you're going to have the best experience with it. So our values are customer service, are doing things right, expediency, and having the perfect balance between value, quality, and reliability. Company staying power and the length of time in business. So I'd like to mention that the owner, his name is Oren Zamir. His background is in sales, and he used to manage a sales force nationally here in Canada of 800 sales reps, and that was in the home security systems. He designed the systems for this force of 800 people to function properly, and he's since transitioned to solar, and he also has additional businesses in Edmonton. He's been in Edmonton for a few years. He's a married man with children, lives in Edmonton, and did his university here. Came to Edmonton through hockey. He was a national level hockey player from Israel, came to Edmonton, did his university, stayed here, got married, settled down, and he's an entrepreneur. So he has two mechanic shops. One is called Horizon Automotive, and he has 3 restaurants, 2 of which are called Basil's Pasta Bar. One of them is, for example, in the Holiday Inn downtown, where the red arrow stops inside the hotel, Holiday Inn Express downtown. So he is fully entrenched as a businessman, entrepreneur, as a family man in the city of Edmonton and in the province of Alberta. So we are here to stay. In fact, we are here to dominate the Western Canadian market through market share. We want to be Western Canada's #1 solar installer, and we are only going to be able to do that by providing superior customer service, quality, and reliability. So we are here to stay. Now, the length of time of the company business, the company was founded as a corporation in May 2022, and the fact that the 3 main categories that tie into your short-term and long-term customer experience and reliability are as follows. So we are dealing with the installation itself, the warranties, and the service. The installation itself, you can consider that there is a check mark for that, because by law we are required to only use master electricians to design the systems and oversee the installation, like qualify the installers to have the installation occur and like happen properly. So that's the most critical, most important part of the system, is that the installation will occur properly. And the electrical part being the most critical part, so having master electricians, so you're protected by law. Right? We can't get the licenses unless we have master electricians that are working for us. Then the actual manufacturing warranty is done by the solar module manufacturer and the inverter manufacturer, and that's through companies that are major companies in the world. So SolarEdge does our inverters, We've got our panels through either Longi or Trina or JA Solar, which are major solar module manufacturers in the world. They've been around for years and years. Longi, for example, is the #1 manufacturer by volume, right? So our Trina and JA Solar are very large solar panel manufacturers, so they're here to stay. So your warranties are going to be in effect by those manufacturers. Even if they merge with another company or get bought out by another company, the warranties will still stay, and the warranties are fully transferable. And then next, so that's a check mark on the warranties. Next check mark is for your service. So even though we're here to stay, you know, other than the fact that tomorrow is going to be another day, and the sun is going to come up again, one can say that nothing in life is necessarily guaranteed. So if we happen to be not in business, say 15 years from now, and you need service, any solar installer will be able to do that. That's not going to happen. We will be Canada's #1. We plan to stay here for the long term. At the same time, in the very unlikely event that Horizon Energy as a service provider is not around, any solar installer will be able to help you. So that's perfectly protecting you as a consumer. Next section over here is, I'll just cut it short to make this as short as possible, I guess. I'm already at 21 minutes, looks like it. So I'm getting the acute awareness that this takes a little bit of time to explain. So owning versus renting. So if you're owning a house versus renting a house, and if you're owning your power versus renting your power, if you're owning, you have a lot more net worth that's built up. So you're building up equity. Any monthly cost towards housing you make are building up your equity. There's an end date to that, to those payments. The payments are decreasing. Once you pay up, you go to zero. You have additional leverage in case you own a house, that you can use that equity to buy something else, and you have more freedom and control. Versus if you're renting, it never ends. You never build up any equity, and it's actually an increase in an upslope line. And now that we're in a period of extraordinary inflation, we are on track where the cost of energy has the potential to eat significant portion of our lunch if we were not to do something about it and lock it in. And that's what happens with solar. You actually have a way to lock in your energy costs. So over here I have a graph of cost versus time, and if today is right there, so now you can look at historically data over 60 years bears out that we've had electricity inflation of about 4 to 6%, doubling every 15 years. Now, being in the period of extraordinary inflation, that line is steeper slope, and if we account for the fact that the grid will need to be replaced in many places because of its age, so we need to overhaul the grid. And we also have a grid that's already maxed out with electrical vehicles coming on board and the fossil fuels being phased out, so prices are on track to, it's essentially a vertical climb. Okay, with solar, we can actually have you take a right turn through the storm into a calm port where you're having your price guarantee. So through Canada Greener Homes, you have a way to pay it off over 10 years, 120 months, interest free. So they give you the full cost of the system and you pay it off over 10 years. Now let's fast forward a little bit over here. So what happens is, if this is your install, 3 months later, and then 2 months after that, you have your deposit from Canada Greener Homes. I'll take you through this in detail. What happens is we actually get paid in a staged manner leading up to the install, and then Canada Greener Homes reimburses you the full cost of the system. If you access the line of credit over here to pay us, then you take the deposit from Canada Greener Homes and you pay yourself back, and let's say it's a line of credit, you just clean that up, and now it's been nothing out of your own pocket, it's all through Canada Greener Homes. Yes, you did have interest carrying charges for 3 to 4 months, but now you've fully paid that off and you're just paying at 0% interest over 10 years, and then you have free power for decades to come. So the goal is to get you set up with what we call a do not pay bill, where you owe nothing for power. So over here we have solar that's flat. After 10 years it goes to zero, and most solar owners are seeing a bit of a positive cash flow after 10 years. So for the long term, you have additional profit that you're making. Phenomenal value section here. So you have the grant anywhere between $3,500 and $5,000. Most people max out at $5,000. you have 50,000 plus of profit on averting electricity price increases, and that's only at 3.5% inflation, and this is over 20 to 25 years. Then you have 40,000 plus profit from equity boost by paying the same or less. So why are you getting an equity boost? Because a house with a solar system is worth a lot more than a house that has higher operating costs, that has a power bill that you owe money for, versus a power bill just for accounting purposes of how much did you draw overnight and how much did you export, and at the end they actually owe you money. And then over here I'm estimating a 10,000 plus profit from positive cash flow long term. That's where you're getting about $200 to $300 on a year on average from the profits from exporting the power between March and September, as you have excess power between March and September. Now the 4 financial strategies. So by all means, take a break, pause it, and make yourself a coffee just so you can soak up the rest of this. So the net metering, which is profit from power exports. So the net metering, I should explain how the power supply works from the grid versus if you own your own solar. So historically we had the power poles, and nowadays they're mostly underground. So the power comes in from the distribution network, goes to the meter on the side of the house, goes into the panel, and in the basement usually, and from the panel it goes to the individual loads in the house. Now that I have solar, we have solar modules on the roof. There's a wire coming out of the back of each of the modules. There's a cluster of wires that comes to the inverter. The direct current that the solar modules produce is converted to alternating current. That comes into the electrical panel, and now preferentially all of the power that solar produces is going to power the house, because electricity follows the path of least resistance. And now if you have excess between March and September during the day, now this electricity can go backwards through the new meter, so it's a net meter. It's no longer this old meter. Excuse me. It's a new meter called the net meter that EPCOR or Fortis or NMAX will provide free of charge. They're legislated to do that. So now you have meter that it's a digital meter. It spins both ways. So there's just an arrow shows whether the current is flowing out into the grid and you're making money. So historically, like, the meter spun one way and you're always getting charged and they're always getting a profit as long as the meter is turning. Now we're actually having the meter spin reverse, and whenever the meter is spinning backwards, you are actually making a profit, which is very, very powerful. So over here at the net metering section here, profit from power exports, lower energy charges. I actually crossed out use here because your use is still the same unless you increased your use, but let's say your average use stays about the same, but your energy charges are going to be lower because check this out, any month you're actually using less than you were before. Now, because we're lowering the energy charges, the delivery fees, this is one of the things that I would say 99% of the folks think that these delivery fees are fixed, and so people go like, yeah, but I'm still going to have delivery fees. Yes, you will, and they will be proportionally lower. So if we lower your energy charges by 90%, your delivery fees are lower by about 70%, which is very powerful as well. Earning credits, so the retailer, which is a specialized solar club, specialized electricity retailer being a solar club, pays you money on average. By the way, you're not required to switch to a solar club. It's just that with a solar club, you get the most bang for your bucks. You're making currently 28.5 cents per kilowatt hour for exports and 9.5 cents per kilowatt hour for imports. So what does that mean? You'd be making over here between March and September 28.5 cents for your exported power, but then when you become a net importer starting mid-September or late September all the way to late February, you're actually only getting charged 9.5 cents for your imports. So far so good. Now the solar club is a specialized, I guess I already went through that, I apologize. So Canada Greener Homes grant, which is $1 per watt of system size up to 5,000. You're guaranteed to get the grant as long as you own the house, as long as they don't run out of them, and as long as you go renewable. So if you go solar, you own the house, and they still have enough grants, you are getting the grant. I'm not the one promising the grant though, it's Canada Greener Homes, and I can show you the page where that's listed. 0% Canada Greener Homes loan. This is as long as you are in decent financial standing, you have a credit score of say 650 or higher, you're getting this 10-year unsecured, meaning no lien on the house, personal loan on approved credit. And that's where we get to into the timeline over here. So let me take you through the timeline of the project. So I like to start with the cha-ching, where you're getting the full deposit of the system. And essentially, how much does the system cost? You can take your yearly kilowatt hours. Let's say your average use is 500 kilowatt hours in a month. So yearly you're using about 6,000 kilowatt hours. You'd need roughly a 6,000 watt system to produce 6,000 kilowatt hours that year. Some houses you need a slightly smaller system if it's purely south facing, but if you have a mix of south facing and east and west facing, which is perfectly fine, we can estimate 6,000 watt system or 6 kilowatt system to make 6,000 kilowatt hours. So you can take that 6,000 watts and multiply it by 3.1 to 3.2, depends on some special requirements depending on your roof and such. So let's call it $3.2 per watt plus GST. So what you would do is you go 500 kilowatt hours on average times 12 is your 6,000 kilowatt hours. It takes a 6,000 watt system to produce 6,000 kilowatt hours, multiply 6,000 by 3.2, multiply by 1.05 for GST, and there's your cost of the system. So in this case, they were using so many kilowatt hours that their system was $27,000 including GST. And so they get a $27,000 deposit over here, 5 months into the process and 2 months after the install. And there's also a $600 rebate for EnerGuide assessment, EGA for EnerGuide assessment. So there's a little 2 pots there. How the grant is applied is they actually deduct the cost of the grant from what you owe. So if they give you $27,000, you owe them $5,000 less. In this case, it's $22,000, and it's $185 a month, which gives you price guarantee or price certainty. So now, leading up to the big cha-ching, what happens is they do a review. After they finish the review, 10 days later, they deposit the full cost into your bank account. The review is just to make sure that the invoices didn't go up. By the way, we guarantee you that we won't ever have any cost overruns. So if the invoice happens to be less, then now they're going to give you less for the loan. So that's theoretically possible. But we do a pretty good job of estimating that what we estimate will be your price. So after they've reviewed the second EnerGuide evaluation, which is an energy inspection, calculating how much energy from non-renewables you use in your home. And now that you've gone solar, you're going to use less gigajoules per year. And so they review the EnerGuide assessment report, and they also review the final cost of the solar system, and then they deposit the amount into your account, which is really, really powerful. Like if you look at in the United States, most people are paying off their solar systems over 25 years, whereas here in Canada, we're paying them off over 10 years. And before this came out 3 months ago, so in July 2022, people were actually doing this same type of a maneuver, but counting on paying it off over 20 years using line of credit that oftentimes was floating with Prime. So now, even though it seemed like you have price guarantee, theoretically Prime can continue to go up as it has been. And so now you don't really have price certainty, and you're taking at least 20 years to pay it back and have the same or lower monthly cost. Now we really have true price certainty, and we have halved the cost of the solar system. So we're paying it off with the same money we would be spending anyways, mind you, right? So there's no payback period. That doesn't apply. Like, what's the payback period when your return on investment is infinite? Because you're taking the same money you'd be spending anyway. So what's my return on investment? It's really infinite. What's my payback period? My payback period is from day one. I'm positive cash flow because the money that I'm spending anyways is building more equity in my home and putting more money back into my own pocket. I'm paying for something rather than for nothing. Now over here is the installation that takes a day. We do install in the winter, so if we need to, we will put on tarps and heaters, melt the snow, so that might take us a day. And then the next day we would install when there's a dry roof and roof clear of snow. Now over here, note that there's 2 sections of the timeline. So Canada Greener Homes process, and then the solar project with Horizon. So the Canada Greener Homes process is the EnerGuide evaluation number 1, which costs $650, and then they upload the report. The grant people and the Canada Greener Homes people, they have a review. Currently, that's 7 weeks, so it's went up from 2 weeks originally when they introduced the interest-free loan to currently 7 weeks. So people are really availing of this windfall that we've been blessed with. Now, once they finish that review of the initial guide, EnerGuide assessment, and that you are the owner of the house, there is a button where you can apply for the interest-free loan on their portal. Now it's 25 to 30 days. You've got the interest-free loan approved, and then we can go ahead and install. Over here is how we get paid and what the construction project entails. So we do a $1,000 deposit to get the process started. On day 11, it's a $1,000 deposit. Those $2,000 combined pays for structural engineering, electrical engineering, structural engineering visit, electrician, master electrician to put together the permitting packages, the single line drawings. Then we also do the city building and development permits. Once the city permit is complete, then once the city permit, and then, well, I guess once the electrical permit is complete, that's overseen by the master electrician, now we can apply for your microgeneration license through either EPCOR or Fortis or ENMAX. If you're in Calgary, EPCOR if you're in Edmonton, and Fortis if you're outside of those two cities. And so the owner of the distribution lines will grant you a microgeneration license. And by the way, your maximum system size is such that Alberta Utilities Commission limits you to no more than 110% of your historical consumption. So we're getting you a license to produce 110% of your electricity from your own micro solar power plant. We do a site survey to measure that none of the vents on the roofs have changed. So the 2,000 covers for all of this, and that's also how I get paid as well. And then once the building permits are complete, so that's approximately 1.5 to 2 months later, we are collecting 60% of the remainder. So in the case of this family, it was a $27,000 system, and then 60% of the remainder was $15,000, and 40% of the remainder, which we collect latest on the day of the install. A lot of people just have a bank draft ready for the installation manager to pick up at the time of the install. That's 40% of the remainder, so that's usually done through a line of credit either that the family already has or sets up individually, or we help you set up an ATB line of credit. So now over here, 2 months later, let's say even really conservatively 3 months after the install, you're getting the full cost of the system and you're paying yourself back. You clean that up, there's no interest carrying charges anymore. And we're flexible on the interest-free loan. So in the sense that if a person it was very important for them to know for sure that they have the interest-free loan approved before they went with the 60% of the remainder type of thing, we would be able to be patient with the client and work with you so that you have certainty that you have the interest-free loan approved, you have it in the bag, and then you'd go ahead with scheduling your install and paying the 60% of the remainder to go ahead with scheduling the install. Now there's a couple of other details that I'm just going to leave for the next time that we talk, because as you can appreciate, it is a construction project. There's a few moving parts, and we definitely hold your hand the whole time, and there's virtually nothing that you will have to do, right? Other than get an email and answer our phone call here and there, you are plug and play, and we do all the work for you. Now over here, it's sort of the finale, like the fireworks of the whole thing. So over here, I call this the risk of price increases. So that's staying with EPCOR, ENMAX, Direct Energy, Fortis, not Fortis, I mean ATCO, and the likes. So in this case, the person had an $180 a month bill. That's very soon. I was saying, well, that's eventually within the next couple of years going to go to $250 and then later on to $350, right? So they're having these price increases. It's a lifelong bill. I'm renting power. I'm never building up any equity. If I'm moving in 20 years, right? A lot of my clients, they don't have any plans to move. That's why we ask, well, do you plan to stay in this house at least another 2 to 4 years, right? So you don't have any plans to move, or you may move, but it's not going to be anytime real soon. So why would you be paying tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of 10, 20, 30 years and building up zero equity when you can build up significant equity with that same amount. So you're boosting your net worth as a result of owning a house. You're boosting it an additional 10 to 20% over the long term. No incentive to stay with the current electricity retailer, and it's less than 2% renewable energy currently. 25-year cost versus savings. So if you stay with the power company, you're 50,000 plus more out of pocket than you need to be. Over here, you actually turn your your liability into an asset, and you're having a $30 profit a month on average for most people. Most people are at least $10 a month average profit with the Solar Club. By the way, if you're wondering, well, what's the Solar Club? How much does it cost to join? It's very much just like EPCOR, ATCO, Direct Energy, NMAX. You just call them up and say, I want to switch. You give 30-day notice. There's no cancellation fees, and you make more money that way. So you're doing $10, $20, $30 a month. In this case, it was $30 a month profit. So it's going to be for the long term. Now you've got $185 a month that's fixed, and then after 120 months, that goes to zero. And now you're free and clear of your solar bill, right? So you have free power for decades. It's 10 years, you're owning your power, you become an owner. It's the pride of ownership. You're building 40,000 plus of equity, roughly about $6,000 per kilowatt. Or we just take the realtor just takes the cost of the system and appends it to the price of the house. Now, if this is going to happen, say 10, 20, 30 years down the road, this number will be greater, because as the electricity cost becomes higher, so does the value of the solar system. And it's not tied to the technology version of today versus 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It's tied to the commodity of kilowatt hours. By the way, if you're wondering, well, how long do solar panels last? It's a 25-year warranty, and it's guaranteed not to drop below 85% of your power output in year 25. So it's guaranteed to produce at least 85% of the power output in year 25 as it produced in year 1. So if you had a 6,000 kilowatt hour production in year 1, you would have no less than 85% of 6,000 kilowatt hours. So call it no less than roughly 5,300 kilowatt hours produced by year 25. So you have a commodity that's valuable. Even if the technology becomes better, which it will, in 20 years technology will certainly be better, but your commodity is still just as valuable. You have an incentive over here. So in the case of a 6 kilowatt system, the person is maxing out at 5,000, and this 5,000 goes to make this $185 a month the $185 a month that it is. So I'm not trying to double dip, I'm just mentioning it because it is two separate things. It's the monthly cost, and then this is the incentive itself. It's 100% or up to 110% renewable, because a lot of systems are more than 100% of electricity over the course of the 12 months that comes from your renewable energy source. And then you have additional 50,000 plus in your pocket over 25 years. That's only at 3.5% inflation. How high do you think inflation is right now? Personally, I think it's no less than 10%. So a lot of people don't realize how serious it is, right? So I'm here to basically sound the alarm and let you know that if you don't lock things in, it's about to eat your lunch. Thanks for listening, and hope to talk to you soon.